ready, time to remove the
Guyana, this is it, the launch of the APNU Coalition campaign on Sunday, July 6th on the Square of the Revolution from 4 p.m. Come meet our candidates. Come out and hear about our people-centered development strategy that puts people first. Come hear from our Prime Ministerial candidate, Jurita Fernandez, our presidential candidate, Aubrey C. Norton, and others. On Sunday, July 6th from 4 p.m., the Square of the Revolution will vibrate with a people-powered campaign. APNU, putting people first.
We ready, time to remove the curse. I'm feeling it now. We ready, time to remove the curse.
Guyana, this is it, the launch of the APNU Coalition campaign on Sunday, July 6th on the Square of the Revolution from 4 p.m. Come meet our candidates. Come out and hear about our people-centered development strategy that puts people first. Come hear from our Prime Ministerial candidate, Jurita Fernandez, our presidential candidate, Aubrey C. Norton, and others. On Sunday, July 6th from 4 p.m., the Square of the Revolution will vibrate with a people-powered campaign. APNU, putting people first.
We ready, time to remove the curse. I'm feeling it now.
A pleasant good afternoon. It's Sunday, the 6th day of July in the year 2025. My name is Christopher Jones, welcoming you to a special live broadcast on the Square of the Revolution. This is Chris on the Square. In a matter of hours, the APNU Coalition will officially launch its 2025 general and regional elections right here on the Square of the Revolution. But first, here is an endorsement for the leader of the People's National Congress Reform and leader of the parliamentary opposition, the Honorable Aubrey C. Norton.
When I became leader of the PNCR and then leader the opposition, our supporters felt abandoned. We had to go out there, engage our supporters, motivate them, and bring them back into the fold, which we did.
Welcome back to the Square of the Revolution. My name is Christopher Jones. Thank you for joining me on this special live broadcast out on the Square of the Revolution. I'm joined this afternoon with my colleague and former Member of Parliament, Ms. Nima Flood-Best, who is no stranger to the national political spectrum, and of course no stranger to the East Bank of Demerara, and particularly the village of Mocha. And Nima, I know you just came from church. I do hope that you were in reverence and in prayer for what is going to transpire after this afternoon and beyond. Now, we know as an activist of the APNU and a former member of parliament, you have been active for a number of years, particularly on the East Bank of Demerara. But in the national spectrum, you have been the shadow minister of culture, youth and sport in the National Assembly. I want you to first take us through the preparation leading into this day. We would have seen you on social media, on your platform. We would have seen you in several villages across your constituency, highlighting the plight and the challenges faced with those persons there. So tell us those preparation, meeting and greeting with your constituency leading into this day on the Square of the Revolution.
Thank you for having me on the program today. To my colleague Chris, I must say thank you for being a very great comrade throughout the process of serving in the National Assembly. I must thank all of my colleagues that I would have worked with. It was a wonderful experience, and I'm looking forward to even more experiences in the future as we continue to work collectively for the development of our country and for our people. Well, I must say today at church it was blessed. I'm very excited to worship. Worship is my lifeline. And being there in God's presence, is an opportunity for me to be rejuvenated and energized, because God has been a really, really good God to all of us, that in all of the challenges that we have gone through, for the last 5 years. We're still here, amen?
Exactly.
And so we
Amen.
give God praise and we give him thanks. And I'm excited because I know that we got this election,
Correct.
2025. All we have to do is keep working together and keep focused, keep our boots on the ground, and yes, we will win this election.
I have no doubt indeed. I have no doubt of that. Now, the pushback from the People's Progressive Party Civic over the several months and so forth, they speak about progress and development. They speak about a wide range of development in various communities, in various regions, and so forth. But you have been, as I mentioned before, and you have been seen on the ground, which is essentially one of the mantra of the presidential candidate of the APNU, Aubrey Norton, that work is done on the ground, and you have been on the ground. What were some of the plights that you would have highlighted on the ground to counter what the PPP is saying about development?
Well, there are so many things we can talk about. So let me start from, I recall our visit to Success. Remember when the residents of Success was flooded out?
Yeah.
I recall from visiting that particular area, walking through the water with you and other comrades, and you see how persons have been struggling, how persons have seen their personal items, they're just floating. And many of them had no idea what will happen next.
Yeah.
I recall from visiting that area, a taxi driver, I won't ever forget him. And he said, you're trying all sorts of things to build life. You work, then you come home at evening, and just imagine working and coming in, taking a rest, and then you wake up in water.
Yeah.
And you wake up in water not because of a natural disaster, but a man-made disaster. And that is the reality for many people. We go to local Plainview, persons who spend over 25 years building their lives, having a community, people sitting together, people have their culture. People don't understand. I think the government don't understand that a community builds on a culture. People would interact, people would wake up in the morning, people have a relationship with their neighbors and all of that. And you see that when they took the bulldozer and break down all of the belongings of those families, how heartrending it has been. I want people to know that's something I would never leave my mind. It reminds me of Cry Freedom, the movie, Cry Freedom. Till to this day, as I continue to engage the residents of Plainview, I always remember the youngest victim, who was just 2 years old. And when I saw her the other day with a career day at school, it really moved me when she dressed as a judge, seeking justice for Adriana Young. Those are moments that, really drives my passion to serve our people. You would have been there when they went back and killed the pigs, remember?
Yeah. Yeah.
And how Mark had to get rid of all his pigs and all of that on the ground. And today, Mark's life is not the same. Mark's life has changed tremendously because he's still grappling with the effects of trying to get his life arranged and organized. But God is good.
Exactly.
He continues to stand, and that is what the people of the enemy need to do, stand together. They were able to be as far as they are because persons would have assisted and helped them along the way. I must say shout out to those wonderful people who stood in the test of time. We come to Hillfoot.
Yeah.
I always recall the incident of Hillfoot traveling to go to Kurukuru in the evening to reach one of our comrades when I encountered the disaster at Hillfoot, where the persons were graded down. That night, I was taken to the area on a motorbike in the dark, pitch dark, no light. And the guy was crying and he was riding up the hills, and I just praying, Lord, let I reach safely.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you get to that area, you recognize how many babies were left homeless because you had babies as young as 2 weeks old at Hillfoot that didn't have any home. You had elderly people there. I remember the sick guy where they lashed down the house. He was crippled, but in the house. He died subsequently after. You know, those are the things that happened. But again, I kept involved. I kept talking with the people at Hillfoot. Still, they have not settled many of them, but they continue to have hope, and APNU brings that hope for many of those people. We can talk about Sarah Johanna. Sarah Johanna, we had those families that were graded down again. You go into the area, that area have over 100 children. So when they graded down 7 homes, you don't need children who are made homeless.
Yeah.
And still you see those children striving. Many of them have struggled throughout school because they would have missed classes, because remember now they don't have a somewhere to really call home. So as I serve the people and I go through all these things, you go to communities where they had a road, but the PPP said in the name of progress of doing the road, but when you go back you can't drive, the vehicle can't fit on the road.
It's a narrow strip.
It's a strip. It's gone from a road to a strip. I visited areas where you see they dig up. They have not taken any thought or consideration for persons to access their homes. So they dump all the stuff there, and people are trying to figure out how they're going out, how they're coming in. And we've seen about, is that really progress? You know? Yeah. So we see all these things happening, and have been happening for our people throughout the years that we're under this PPPC administrative rule of dictatorship, marginalization, victimization. Those are words that can be used to describe their actions. What about Chris? All of those who were dismissed from their job.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned Moko and the people at Keenview, and particularly benefit for the viewers in the diaspora who are currently viewing this program, and they want to get an idea as to what happened thereafter. So first, we were told that it is necessary for those persons to be removed because they're impeding the 4-lane road that was recently constructed, the concussion road, according to the U.S. Secretary of State. Is that those persons had to be removed because they were impeding the progress and the development of the road and so forth. Many people actually fell trapped to that propaganda by the PPP, and they too were lambasting the people there at Keenview. They have been removed. Has the road been developed on the strip of land that they were living and on?
No, it is not. If you pass at that area right now, and you know the wickedness of the PPPC government.
Yeah.
When they had a meeting, the persons at Keenview were saying to them, you had the area for the road, there's a piece of land, there's a canal, and then Keenview. They said no, because they block it up. They threw mud in it. If you go now to that area, you can see that they dig out all the mud from the canal. All that mud that they claim, though there was no extra canal behind the people, because I was at the meeting.
Yeah.
You go now, the other day, that's about 2 weeks back, they took an excavator and they dug that same canal to bring drainage. You know what they did? Block it with mud to give people the impression that the road was going there. And so we continue to see, again, the actions of this wicked government when it comes to dealing with the people at Keenview. Drive along the highway and you see all the houses and all the buildings that are in line with the set area where Keenview was. Every day they spray, nobody don't want Keenview land. They mustn't want to occupy Keenview, people got to go back there.
Correct. But even further up from Keenview, you see some huge structure being erected literally in line with where Keenview was. And as you mentioned before, it is nothing more than wickedness from the PPP, and it's nothing new. Because I know persons on the east coast of the Demerara, for example, in the area of Melanie Dharma Sharma, many years ago, when persons started to occupy the land for housing development, it was cited for housing development. It was the same People's Progressive Party civic government that actually blocked the main drainage area and flooded the land. And I know you mentioned to us some time ago a back of Moko. The farmers in that area suffer the same fate by the PPP.
Yes, most definitely. When we had our first market day on the day, former APNU government, AFC government, we had a market day, and as soon as the market day was finished and PPP got into office,
Yeah.
I have videos, I have photos, I kept them because I'm going to keep putting them out to remind people how they block the drainage canal and flood. You know, was it the experience walking on a farm and seeing 200 bunches of plantain on the ground, the trees fall along with the plantain or the banana? I've experienced that. Now is it to walk acres of land and see all the sorrel down on the water, all the cash crops on the water. I've seen that, all the pear trees on the water, not a man-made disaster.
A PPP
A
disaster.
PPP disaster. I always say to people, the worst pandemic Ghana ever suffered is under the PPP
And continue.
government. And continue to suffer that because all these things that affect the lives of people were done by man, by their instructions. You block up a drain for 2-3 years, people can't use it. You come just not to the sporting facilities the same way. 2-3 years, people can't use it, people can't have access. Imagine a farmer waking up early in the morning, tilling the soil, sowing the seed, waiting to reap, and then water coming, and that's the end. And many of the farmers in Moko were not compensated for those disasters.
Yes.
They went about, they decide who they wanted to give the money, people affiliated with them, and many of the affiliates got the money and not the actual farmers.
Mercy. But I mean that story you hear repeating itself across the length and breadth of this country. Now you mentioned sports, and I want to take you into that, and then as we get further in, I will ask you to go in depth in terms of what the APNU government is proposing to do as it relates to youth development, sport development, and so forth. But let's just first start the conversation as the representative, the shadow minister for culture, youth, and sports in the Parliament of Guyana, and some of the experiences that you had there, because I know on many occasions you sought to expose the lies coming out of the Minister of Culture, Youth, and Sports and the ministry of itself. But what are some of those issues? Because we note as well, your government, the APNU in government, you started the synthetic track in regions 10 and 6. It was under your government that we saw the installation of lights, because it was a deliberate program which was titled Light Them Up Campaign, in which for the first time you had community grounds across this country receiving lights and upgrades and so forth. When the PPP came to office, many of the communities were told by the minister that he's making allocation of $10 million for ground X, Y, and so forth. I can tell you about this far because in the community that I live, in Tugville, there's the Conqueror's ground that they started to do some work about 3 years ago. And to this day, as we speak, it still remains undone. But for your benefit, as Shadow Minister of Culture and Sport in the National Assembly, what are some of those issues that you saw?
Well, shadowing the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sports is quite interesting. When you have a minister who's very arrogant, doesn't care to listen to anybody and the things they do. Only last evening I received a message, someone asked me to list the number of events I was invited to as Shadow Minister for Culture, Youth and Sports under the PPPC administration. And I laughed. I said, the number of events? I said, the only thing I've ever received an invitation for is the flag raising after they get a cussing in public about it. Other than that, no other event held under the ministry did I ever receive any formal invitation to go to attend. All the events you see me attending, I went on my own, and because I know that as a former athlete and a teacher of sports, the importance of motivation, being present to support the athletes. So for me, I didn't allow the political foolishness that Ramson and his crew went on with to bother me from, or to stop me from being there to motivate and cheer up our athletes and encourage them. Because, like I said, as a former athlete, I know the importance of motivation. You know, is it to be at a game and you see your parents or your neighbor or your school friends and stand cheering you on? I made myself present at competitions to be there to motivate and encourage the athletes because I know the importance of it. In the parliament, of course, you know, we have to submit questions and sometimes it frustrates me. I submitted my last set of questions and they would not be answered because, you know, we're no longer in there. But the many questions I would have submitted to that ministry, the answers given were vague. For example, the grants, the 1 million grant that they give out for persons to do their creative works and so forth. When I asked for a list of persons who receive it, I couldn't get a list according to them, but it's in the media, right? But I can't get a list, an official list from the ministry. You can say, no, you go in the media may not necessarily carry everything.
Right.
So for me to get the accurate information, I have to write to the ministry. I still didn't get it. When you ask how they distribute the monies that they took from Ipadaji, remember they took away the 100 million grants?
Yes.
And they claim that they gave how many African groups. I have followed in the media, and when I calculate the monies that were distributed, they reach 100 million. So I'm wondering in my mind, where's the balance of this 100 million that people of African descent are to benefit from? This administration took the position to remove that grant and decided they will distribute it to who they want. But when you tally based on what they have in the media, it can reach 100 million.
Yeah.
So there will be a lot of money. So those are the things that you have to deal with. Also, incomplete projects. You mentioned the stadiums that were started and left. Still incomplete. You go to Linden, still incomplete. You go to Region 6, I was in Region 6 2 weeks ago, still in the same position. They still have people running with, they run some, they borrow and all that, hustling to do some work. And then they tell you they're going to do a set of slam dash, patch and paste and cut and send it and say that they've completed it. But it will not be wholesome enough for the athletes. So we have athletes who would have gone the last 5 years without having proper access to facilities. Look at the gymnasium, the sports hall. Perfect example. How many years? 4 years?
Yes.
They were doing repairs to the sports hall. I did some research. I think the actual original sports hall took within months to finish constructed.
Correct.
But they went to do repairs and took years. And you know what's interesting? Go now when rain fall. All the roof leaking. Washroom still in flashing, but it took 4 years to give us substandard work.
With our resources.
Substandard work. And then you think, oh, we're declaring this state of the art. I don't forget the words they use.
Yes.
State of the art facility.
Keywords.
Yeah. But when you go to this supposedly state of the art facility, you're looking, you see the state, but you don't see the art. So, you know.
I want to, so I mentioned the Ministry of Technical Sports, and particularly as it relates to monies and the allocation. Now, every year, the Parliament of Ghana makes allocation in the hundreds of millions of dollars to the ministry. But yet, there is no proper accountability. You mentioned the grant that should have used to be given to the Ipadaji, and the tabulation based on where they say the monies were went. It's not coming up to the figure as I've advocated. There is reports coming out from the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport that the minister has instructed the permanent secretary to prepare checks in the sum of $2 million, $5 million, $10 million with no supporting documentation. It is reported that the permanent secretary and the ministry is aware that this is illegal based on the accountability laws and so forth. But essentially is that the minister would instruct that X person is coming, give them a check for $2 million, for $5 million and so forth. That's how essentially the ministry is being run. And that is why where funds and allocation should be made to sports and sport groups and fraternity is not happening. I know a lot of the sporting body, the federations and the associations have reached out to you and they complain that many times when their athletes are to travel abroad or to participate in events, that most time they are denied funding. I want to go now, I want to look forward under the APNU government, and it could be presumed that you will likely be the Minister of Culture, Youth and Sport. What are some of the policies that the APNU has in place after achieving the 2025 elections?
Let me start by saying, under our people development strategy, putting people first, the APNU government will ensure that our youths, our children, our women, all categories of individuals in this country will be taken care of. Specifically, under the culture ministry, I'll tell you what is my vision of a culture ministry, culture, youth and sport. It should be seen as the happiness ministry of a country. The happiness ministry. Why do I use that term? On the culture, our objective is to preserve and protect what we have. And if we're going to preserve and protect what we have, for our artists, our musician, artists, and all these people, we know they're struggling with copyright legislation. We don't have anything that they can rely on or provide a form of protection for them. And so we will work to have that legislation in place so that they can be protected. It is important. You know, I would have walked after interacting with individuals. You would go on the by GPO and you'd see Guyanese doing the work, the craftsman thing, creating the leather craft and all of that. And you could go to a Chinese store and see a replica. There's no protection for our people there. We have persons who do their music, and you would see people use it and they're not benefiting from the use. So we need to first of all have legislation there to protect. Also, we see the disrespect when it comes to our artists and so forth in this country. You have an administration that is willing to pay money, a lot of money, bring everybody in, all the fancy artists, but how much do they actually offer our local artists? Yeah. If we cannot invest in our people, then obviously they will not be able to benefit from the patrimony of the state, because as an artist, whatever it is you do, a person who paints, draw, so whatever it is that they do, after a certain time, what is there to protect them when they retire? Right. We have to ensure under our government, we'll ensure that systems are in place that after retirement they can benefit. So if you have your legislation in place, even when they retire, and we know that happen, the music being played and so forth, they're getting a subscription, they're getting the money from it. We have to ensure that we protect our culture at all costs. So we have to invest in it. We see the water down of matrimony. Yay! Under the APN, we get it. Matrimony is we own. Matrimony is we thing. So we're going to ensure that we preserve and protect that culture that so many people look forward to, the family time, you know. I always sit and reflect how at matrimony time my mom used to prepare the basket. And we would be on the Central Road in front of the church in Nazarene at Irving Street. And you would watch it, all the floats, and everybody did pass, and you would greet people, you see your school friends and so forth. You don't have that kind of atmosphere now when you go to MASH. Just see a few things, you're not seeing the creativity out there. Under our government, the APN government will ensure that we preserve and protect our culture and our arts, because it is important to maintain our Guyanese identity, our unique identity, and we have a lot of that to protect. Correct. When it comes to our youth, you know, I sat down and I reflect on what is all the monies that were allocated. I'm sorry that I didn't work with the total in my head, but all the monies allocated within the last 5 years for youth, most of it either went to furniture or a building. Many of the buildings, again, incomplete. So how did the youths actually benefit? What we saw Ramson doing is running into Sophia, the training center and so forth, cut short the training program for our skills one, be it a mason, being a carpentry, whatever it is they're doing, from a 1-year program to a 4 months program. And then he sits in the parliament to tell me, an educator, and people who knowledgeable about what happens with the curriculum. Oh, we have done a good thing. How you could tell me that I'm a certified carpenter in 4 months?
Yeah.
What experience, what practice was given in 4 months? So they went and they adjusted. That what happened on us. When we finished training our young people, they will be able to use the certificate and earn from it properly. Now people got a question. This person went to training and in 4 months an electrician come out, 4 months. An electrician come out and they can't handle themselves on the job because you did not prepare the program for them to actually be successful.
It's more for the PPP. It's more about the show, as in there's a graduation ceremony and the minister hands out certificate and the NCN or the DPI would prepare 2,000 youth, 1,400, 600, 200, whatever the case be. It's about the show, but not the actual preparing young people for the world of work and training them.
And to actually be successful. I remember asking in the parliament, if you're running a cooking classes or a cookery or sewing, we all already have an accredited institution of the Carnegie School of Home Economics.
Yes.
Why not run the programs and have the children certified through that institution?
Exactly.
Instead of giving them a piece of cardboard with stamp Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sports, sewing course or whatever course, and put a stamp there invalid.
Exactly.
Because that is not an accredited institution to issue the certificate. That is just the ministry. So when I ask why is it they're not collaborating with these areas, even though these courses that they're running, you got GTI, you got GITC, even though they may not be able to accommodate all the students, as government you should supposed to have interagency linking. So you can actually run the program and get the original certificate from these institutions, let them come and do the evaluation or whatever. And so at the end of the day, when I present my certificate, it's not just a cardboard with a stamp.
Exactly.
From an institution that is not accredited to run the program.
Exactly.
So we will ensure for our young people that the training that they get, the empowerment that they will get through business, through all the programs that we will organize, that they can actually become functional members of society and earn from what they would have learned. It wouldn't just be giving them a paper. So our young people can look forward to that. When it comes to sports, the first thing we have to do is to show respect for our athletes. It really eats me up inside to see how disrespected our athletes were treated under this PPPC government. And I will start by identifying one. The recent coming home of the athletes from the Perth Games. You know, the usual pump and swear and flowers and so that they would have. Even though they didn't get the number of medals that they were looking for at this last games, the welcome home ceremony was cancelled for those athletes. And I saw the disappointment in their faces because I was there. Like I said, I don't need an invitation from this government to turn up to motivate and encourage our national athletes. So I was at the airport to witness firsthand the return of our athletes from the Perth Games and how disappointed they were that nobody was there to welcome them home. Even to the parents who are disappointed. Now you don't treat athletes like that. They are our national pride. They traveled, they would have trained, some of them would have achieved their personal best and was placed on the Perth team. They earned the place there, they handpick them. Why is it that they don't deserve their welcome home, a nice treat? We're happy, we'll be happy for you guys. We kept the golden arrowhead flying and all of that. No, they were treated like that. And then we see what happened with the cricket. All the people coming for cricket, all the celebration. Something else happened, all the celebration, but you see the segregation when it comes to how we honor and show respect for our athletes in the different sports disciplines. Under AP and youth government, our athletes will be respected. First, you know, one of the things that I've seen is that our athletes have to go and beg for sponsorship. And that is something that, again, eats at me. The swimming association got their own issues going on, so some of the swimmers are not getting no support from the government. So for athletes to go places, they got to be begging for sponsorship to go and do what they have to do. Our athletes should not be made into beggars. We're in an oil-rich economy. Why is it that we can't ensure that our athletes are respected? One, they get the sponsorship needed so that they can go to participate. Two, why is it that we're not sending, if we're going to go to a country to participate, you're supposed to send somebody a week ahead, 2 weeks ahead to ensure that logistics is in place, that when your athletes reach to that country, they're picked up properly, they're housed properly, the diet is in place. I've listened to the horrors of athletes speaking, going to compete at a venue and the doors stand locked, breeze catching them all night. That would not happen under the APNU government. We will ensure our athletes are respected and protected. We spoke about the insurance for our athletes. Many athletes would go, they would take part, one injury would take them out of the sport.
Yeah, and that's it.
Because they can't afford the care that is needed.
Yeah.
That is something that we need to look to ensure that our athletes are covered and protected. Many of our athletes question, got to go to work and then go and train for the sport. They playing football, they got to go do the little mason walk all day, they're tired.
Yeah.
Or they got to go and play cricket after working hard. And then they got to go and play the sport. Where is the support for those athletes?
Exactly.
Our government will support.
Excellent. And I'm happy that you mentioned that, because having served in the National Sports Commission as Director of Sports, we were at pains at time to find sufficient financial support for the athletes then, but we provided what we could. Now, if we were given the opportunity as exists now, access to oil resources, because one, you mentioned in terms of athletes having to go to work, get off from work and then put in a couple hours of training. And they can't because they're tired and they got to rest and so forth. So I agree with you. Okay, we want to continue with the discourse. Of course, we're going to go to a quick commercial break. So for those of you just joining us, we're coming to you live from the Square of the Revolution. It is now just 2:02 in the afternoon, and just in a matter of hours, you will have thousands of Guyanese of all walks of life arriving here on the Square of the Revolution. As mentioned last night, you have people from the diaspora who started to arrive in country as early as Thursday, and of course earlier today. They're going to be assembled out here on the Square of the Revolution, where at 5 o'clock this afternoon will be the official launch of the APNU AFC Coalition campaign. And of course, we extend an invitation to you. I'm joined here with former Member of Parliament with responsibility for culture, youth and sport, Ms. Nima Fruit Best. And of course, she's going to continue to be my guest for another few minutes. So stay tuned. This is Chris on the Square from the Square of the Revolution.
Time to remove the
Guyana, this is it, the launch of the APNU Coalition campaign on Sunday, July 6th on the Square of the Revolution from 4 p.m. Come meet our candidates. Come out and hear about our people-centered development strategy that puts people first. Come hear from our Prime Ministerial candidate, Jurita Fernandez, our presidential candidate, Aubrey C. Norton, and others. On Sunday, July 6th from 4 p.m., the Square of the Revolution will vibrate with a people-powered campaign. APNU, putting people first.
We ready, time to remove the curse. I'm feeling it now.
Hi Guyana, I'm Ricky Ramsdorff, a former Member of Parliament. As we prepare to launch our general and regional election campaign today, I invite you to join us. Come and listen to our people-centered development strategy from our presidential candidate, Aubrey C. Norton, and our Prime Ministerial candidate, Jurita Fernandez. Remember, vote for integrity and transparency as we strive to reclaim Guyana from the most corrupt government in the Caribbean. Under the leadership of Aubrey C. Norton and our Prime Ministerial candidate, Jurita Fernandez, we envision a transformative Guyana where each Guyanese will benefit from the country's oil resources. We will restructure the Guyana Forestry Commission, the Environmental Protection Agency, and the Guyana Geology and Mines Commission to ensure they serve the people of Guyana and not as personal friends, family, or favorites. Our goal is to make these organizations viable and sustainable for future generations. I endorse Aubrey C. Norton for president, and I urge you to vote APNO on September 1st, where we prioritize the well-being of our people.
Welcome back to Chris on the Square, coming to you live from the Square of the Revolution. I'm continuing to be joined by former Member of Parliament. So before we get into this segment proper, I want to ask you, your 5 years, and I hope I don't railroad the conversation that we were having before the country, but the 5 years serving in the National Assembly as a first-time Member of Parliament. Let me go back from when you were called. I want you to walk our viewers through that period when you first received the call. Because for those that may not know Nemo Fleet best, like I know Nemo Fleet best, way beyond 2020. Always active in the village of Mocha, always active on the east bank of Demerara. And more so, during her period, I can share this now with you, during her period as a Member of Parliament, Nemo Fleet best was one of those MPs that we will send not to necessarily infiltrate certain meetings that the PPP or ministers were having right along the east bank of the Electoral, because Nemo becomes so inconspicuous that she is there, she blends in the crowd, and they don't even recognize that it is an opposition Member of Parliament. And that's how Nemo was able to have so much information in terms of what's happening on the ground, because that is what she was doing. So, Nemo, take us through when you got that call 5 years ago to sit in the National Assembly, your reaction, your family's response, and so forth, and then take us through the 5 years and what that experience had been for you.
Wow. Well, I can recall the day I received the call. I was washing wares in the house, and I got this call. Is this Nemo? I said, yes. Are you willing to serve in the National Assembly? I said, yes. He said, sure? I said, yes. Okay, but please get yourself prepared. And then I stood up in front of the mirror and said, wow, I don't even have a hairstyle. So I had to run and get my cousin. Thankfully, my family is always there to support me, to start getting me ready to get this parliamentary looks. Because remember, my mother at home cooking, cleaning, and in that time with all of that at that set moment.
Yeah.
And from the time I entered the National Assembly, I saw it as an opportunity to serve. I'm always serving.
Yeah.
So I see my parliamentary work as an extension of service. I know I'm able to serve more people. Correct. And not just be shut in there.
Right.
And I can tell you the most vulgar place I've ever worked is the Parliament of Vienna. I gotta let people know.
Yes, please do.
I recall the first time I heard Kwame stand up and talk about big panty in the Parliament, and who's a prostitute, and some of the languages I heard. I tell you, because of how I grew up, the Parliament is seen as the most vulgar place I've worked in terms of language. It's also the environment where I see a lot of disrespect. But y'all know I say about that.
Yeah.
The level of disrespect I saw in the Parliament against women really, really upset me. Yeah. And I'm thankful that I didn't have the opportunity to flatten somebody's face.
But you witness a lot. You witness a lot of those. Not only verbal abuse on women, but at one time there was a physical abuse on then Member of Parliament Tabitha Sarabo Hali. So go ahead.
Yeah, that was upsetting to me because, you know, and people can know as I'm there, I'm thinking, why he feel that he could knock one of our colleagues and get away with it. I didn't want to throw him down the step. And that's the truth. I want to throw him down the step because he has no right to hit anybody. And I will say, we are women who leave our families to go and serve and speak on behalf of the people of Guyana. And then you're dealing with a whole group. Look, we got to get rid of the PPP. You're dealing with a whole group of people who have no regards or respect, decent respect for people. I look at how they would address people. I mean, we grew up knowing that you respect your elders. You speak to them in a certain way. But sitting in the Parliament for the last 5 years, what I have seen, I know it's not good for the young people. I had some students who would have visited during the time the same list. Because all them things you always go through. If you hear, and they can tell you what was said from the government side of the house.
Certain ministers.
And however, like I said to people, it was a joy to serve because amidst all the challenges, is why I could celebrate. Amidst all the challenges, we were still able to stand. All them questions we submitted, I got all them questions, I count them out.
Yeah.
All the foolish answers we received. Now is the time we got to get rid of the PPP government. So it was just a joy serving, but my experience, I wouldn't shy from telling people it's the most vulgar place I've ever worked.
You mentioned some of your frustration, particularly when posing questions to the minister, whether written or oral, and the type of response that you get. But I want to go a little bit deeper into that, because you note at the time you had the varying political parties that sit in the parliament. And specifically, you had the joiner party, who, whilst out there during that campaign and all that they're going to fight against once in the parliament and so forth. And then when you had Mr. Lennox Schumann, who was the first representative of the joiner party in parliament, and those experiences that you had or you witnessed with him sitting in the opposition benches, but then voting every single time with the government. And then you may say that, oh, well, it was just Lennox Schumann. And then you had a change in the joiner party, and you had Dr. Kisui. Take us through this.
You know, I've never seen a joiner party in parliament. It was a joiner party on paper by name.
Yeah.
But none of the actions of those members speaks to anything that, you know, that they're against what the government is doing. They're quite comfortable in the skin because at all time they would have voted for and with the PPPC government. I don't know why they didn't make a special seat over the other side and just put them there, because they were just joining on paper, not in action.
Yeah.
They have not stood up for anything that they should have stood up for when it comes to defending the people of this country. All you hear them, they ridicule, they criticize the opposition, but they were supposed to be over the opposition. But again, like I said, they should have created a special seat over the government side for that joiner party, because the joiner party was PPP.
As we prepare to wrap up this segment, and viewers, I just need to alert you now that the live stream does not end here. In just a few minutes when we exit, we're going to have another host, and this is going to be Trevon, and he has another group of persons that he will be interviewing, and the live stream continues right here on the Square of the Revolution, so you need not to go anywhere. But meanwhile, as we prepare to wrap up, as you just mentioned, what transpired in the parliament, the joiner party went out there during the campaign and campaigned to people in terms of what they intend to do and so forth. And it turned out that it was nothing more than musical chairs to share this person coming and he's an MP and then she's an MP to get access to the finances or whatever the case be, and vote every single time with the PPP government. I want you now to sound the warning. And this is about the most critical part of the interview. To sound the warning to the Guyanese people who will be taken to the polls September 1 in these elections. That they may believe that I want something fresh, something new, a new face, and I'll take a chance here and take a chance there. Now, I don't want to speak because I've experienced these over the last September, 29 years being in politics. You had this experience for yourself. I want you to sound the warning to people out there who may be thinking about voting for a fresh, a new something added. What could likely be the consequences of them casting a vote other than an APNU government?
Well, to my Guyanese people, I want to call on all of you this afternoon. Do not be fooled. Do not be carried away by all these new groupings or whatever is being formed. Stop and look at what happened in the last Parliament of Guyana. You were supposed to have a joiner, but at no time was the joiner independent of the government. At all times, they voted in favor of the government. They voted in favor of our oppression, our marginalization, our victimization. They were all a part of it. The joiner voted with these people and they acted with them. Also, the parliament was not independent because only the Speaker, Manzoor Nadir, campaigning for PPP. I saw him campaigning on farm on the East Bank for the PPP, trying to hold on to his seat. All these things you have to pay attention to. Do not be fooled. Think about your children. Think about your future. Under the previous AP and UFC government, I tell people, mothers slept in peace. You went to the market, you spent your dollars, and you saw what your monies was being used for. Under the last 5 years, people are not at peace anymore, and we're in an oil-rich economy. Guyana is supposed to be the fastest growing economy. I tell them the fastest growing economy for Guyanese, but the fastest growing economy in the world. And we see that people continue to suffer, continue to struggle, homes graded down, the fires, look how many children lost their life at Madia. And just because people can't implement recommendations and do, all these things, think about all these things. And more recently, think about Adriana Young and how she lost her life and what we see being happen with the law enforcement. All these things, think all of these things are on the paper. All those young men who were gunned down. Think about all of that, and I say to you, vote APNU into the next government. And you can be assured that we will represent the interests of all Guyanese. Our people will be comfortable. Our people will be able to sleep in peace. You don't have to be worrying about a corrupt police force or people doing things to harm you. You don't have to worry about that under the APNU. And again, do not be fooled. Do not be fooled by all the other little groups that popping up. Look and see what happened in the last parliament, and you will see exactly what will happen. They're going to vote in favor of the PPP that continues to oppress people. I look forward to seeing you. This afternoon, I'll be back here, all decked out in my green. I hope you have your green ready. Come out to the Square of the Revolution. Let us listen to our leader, our upcoming president and prime minister, who's going to be presenting, and all the other speakers, information that is pertinent for you to understand our people development strategy. I call on you, come out this afternoon and let's have fun as we rally the APNU into government come September 1st, 2025. I thank you, Chris, for being here.
I thank you very much, Nima Fu Best. And of course, Nima has been chatting with me for the last 45 minutes thereabout. And as I mentioned before, the live stream will continue all the way up to the pre-program time. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to bring you some more endorsements. And of course, we're going to be right back with you to continue new interviews with some of the new fresh faces of the APNU coalition campaign. In just a matter of hours, the Square of the Revolution here in central Georgetown will be a sea of green, in which Guyanese of all walks of life, including those from the diaspora, will be coming out to have their numbers to be counted on the Square of the Revolution as people who are prepared to bring about the real change that is necessary for the movement, the forward movement of Guyana. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with Chris on the Square.
We ready, time to remove the
Guyana, this is it, the launch of the APNU coalition campaign on Sunday, July 6th on the Square of the Revolution from 4 p.m. Come meet our candidates. Come out and hear about our people-centered development strategy that puts people first. Come hear from our prime ministerial candidate, Jurita Fernandez, our presidential candidate, Aubrey C. Norton, and others. On Sunday, July 6th from 4 p.m., the Square of the Revolution will vibrate with a people-powered campaign. APNU, putting people first.
We ready, time to remove the curse. I'm feeling it now.
Hey Guyana, I'm super excited to invite you to the APNU campaign launch today at Coffee Square. Our mission is clear: to fight against the corruption and incompetence of the current government, For too long, we have seen our public institutions plagued by scandal after scandal. For too long, we have seen corruption all across this country. For too long, we have seen the injustices in every region of this country. And if you're saying enough is enough, then Coffee Square is the place to be. We are ready to lead, and together we can win. Come out and join us.
When I became leader of the PNCR and then leader the opposition, our supporters felt abandoned. We had to go out there, engage our supporters, motivate them, and bring them back into the fold, which we did. When I became leader of the PNCR and then leader the opposition, our supporters felt abandoned. We had to go out there, engage our supporters, motivate them, and bring them back into the fold, which we did.
My fellow Guyanese, I am Ronald Daniels. It is truly an honor for me to be associated with a partnership for national unity, a party that is equipped with both the vision and the people to truly transform Guyana into a country that all of us can be proud of, a country that cares for each and every one of us, and a country with resources each and every one of us can and should benefit from. Do come out to our grand luncheon at the Square of the Revolution this Sunday so that you can meet our candidates and you can hear for yourself our transformative vision. We're looking forward to seeing you there.
Good afternoon, Guyana. We're coming to you live from the Square of the Revolution. Listen, I don't know if you're watching me on your phone, on your tablet, your computer, somebody sitting down next to you, stuff you're watching in. But if you are not on your way to the Square of the Revolution right now, you are not in the right place. All right? So you need to run into your shower if you're at home, get dressed, put on your green, and come here. This show is about to start. We are launching our campaign. This is a people power campaign, and you need to be a part of this. This is all about you, isn't it, Chris? It's all about the people of Guyana.
Correct is right. Correct is right. Today is about the people of Guyana. Today is when the people of Guyana will make their mark. Today is the day when the people of Guyana will sound their voices loudly and their presence on the Square of the Revolution.
But this is not your first rodeo. This is not the first time you're at the launch of the campaign, Chris. How many years have you been doing this?
So I was just telling Mimas that come September the 27th thereabout, will mark 29 years.
How old are you really?
Smallest.
You look young, man.
Yeah, so it's gonna be 29 years. Essentially, I got involved with the PNC from the tail end of Desmond. I came in around 1997. It was the 1987 general and regional elections.
Yes.
For those persons who may be old enough to remember, there was this particular campaign jingle where you had former President Desmond Height, the voice in the background, and the voice said, "We Guyanese could have a great future together." And then the jingle started. Listen, I kid you not, as a youngster at that time, I was blown away. I was drawn. Just around the corner from where I used to live in Smythe and Dorman Street, or Leopold Street area, there is the PNC's district office on Dorman Street. Went over to that office, saw Mr. Clayton Hines, said to Mr. Clayton Hines, how do I get involved?
Yeah.
Mr. Hines literally took me and introduced me to Mr. Dennis Glasgow, Mr. Dennis Glasgow then introduced me to Lorley Nestor.
Wow.
And I can say the rest is history because
Yeah.
literally Lorley Nestor at that time had me from point A to B to C. I never had a weekend day after. Every Saturday when I'm home, my mom would say, look, somebody's outside is Lorley, we go in here, and the rest is history. And I stayed.
You stayed.
And I stayed. So even though you had the whole period after the 97 elections in which you had the court proceedings and the courts subsequently vitiated those elections.
Yes.
So really and truly, by law, by that ruling, Janet Jadno was truly never president of Ghana.
That's true.
Based on that ruling.
That's true.
But coming out of that elections, you know, some people lost hope, lost faith, and some faded away. Myself and the youngsters that were a part of the YSM, we stayed. We went to the 2021 elections. We were not successful in that election. We stayed and continued the fight. We went to the 2006 elections. We were not successful at those elections. We stayed and continued to champion the cause. We went to 2011. We became a majority in opposition. And then, of course, that paved the way for the 2015 elections. And then, of course, coming into 2020. I said that to say this, that in political struggle is not something that one could achieve overnight.
That's true.
You cannot achieve success in political struggle. Political struggle is always ongoing. It's almost never ending. You have to continue to be there, to continue to push until you get the success.
Absolutely.
Now, we've had the opportunity, having been in government in 2015, to demonstrate to the people of Guyana our ability to lead, our ability to develop not only a country, but develop the people.
Yes.
And from those experiences and those those successes that we would have left, we asked the people of Guyana now in 2025 into these elections to judge us based on those achievements.
Yes.
And I know you and your team have been chronicling those achievements, and of course we hope today and later this evening at the rally that we put out and remind people of those there. And we did all of that and was successful without oil money.
Without oil money.
Correct.
Yes, absolutely. It is so important for us to remind people of what we would have accomplished from 2015 to 2020, because, you know, there is a certain person who likes to say that the APNU has no track record.
Yeah.
And this is something we want to talk about within this segment here. Whether it is from Region 1 to Region 10, we did something that changed people's lives. And
correct.
I want to start with agriculture. Agriculture and infrastructure, as a matter of fact. I recall in the last segment, you spoke with Nima about some of the challenges, and Nima was talking about the difficulties she saw, whether in Echoes or elsewhere, the roads that were dug up, and all of these kinds of things. But when we look 2015 to 2020, under the APNU-led coalition, we did things like 13 of these major pump stations were built across Guyana. We worked in drainage and irrigation, which improved the lives of more than 120,000 Guyanese across this nation. We brought in that amphibious excavator. I don't know if you remember that. That was a big deal. I think a few days ago, I was driving in Region 5, and I saw that the current administration was moving that excavator from somewhere in Region 5 or Region 6 to bring it down this way. But we introduced that to Guyana, and plus we also had the cutter suction dredge, which was so important to keep our drains flowing, to ensure there's a proper outflow into the Atlantic Ocean. I can give you a story about where I'm from, Cottage, Maikoni. The government back then, prior to 2015, had spent more than 200 million Guyana dollars in building a sluice. And when the sluice was completed, they discovered that the sluice was higher than the trench. It was higher than the high water mark of the drainage system that we had. They had to go ahead and build another one. And when they did, they determined that once it was opened, within days, it was silted up. But there was no program to clean it, to desilt, to ensure that the communities were drained. And that led to severe flooding, not only the people living out on the coast close to the Atlantic Ocean, but the people further inland in the Mahaika Creek, Maikoni Creek, all those people are affected. So we found that while we were in government, we built systems based upon the needs of the people and with the people in mind. And this campaign, which we are launching this evening, is all about the people. It's all about putting you, the Guyanese, first. Putting people first. That's one of the major taglines of our campaign. You know, how have you spoke earlier about Lorraine and being involved with all of these individuals in the party. How would you say the party has helped you personally from being involved here?
So, part of the whole thing of public speaking and so forth, because of my introduction into the politics and having that opportunity to not tour, I wouldn't consider it a tour because essentially you were essentially doing fact finding.
Yes.
That we visit so many communities, far flung communities across this country, and then you witness people's living standard. You witness people's difficulty in accessing potable water.
Yes.
You witness people's difficulty in getting their children to and from school. You witness people's difficulty with accessing land or even to commence construction and so forth. So those experiences put me in a better position as a person involved in politics that once given the opportunity, as I've been given back in 2011 to become a member of parliament, is that it provided me with that platform to advocate for and on behalf of those people in those far-flung communities that I've witnessed.
Yes.
I often tell people, like, for example, I spent a lot of time in Region 1, whether it's in Mabruma or whether it is in the Matakai sub-region and so forth. But then we went further into some of these riverine communities, places like Obadiah, Hottakoi, Sacred Heart, St. Monica, the island, and so forth. Remote communities with indigenous people. And when you go to those places and you see the plight and the challenges that they get, and then when you come back on the coast, here it is a PPP government preaching about how they've developed the life and the living standards of Guyanese all across this country and so forth. But because you had the experience and the opportunity being on the ground in those areas, you see it is quite different.
Yes.
And then having been given the opportunity by the PNC at that time, then APNU AFC, to be at that level in the National Assembly as a parliamentarian to make representation on behalf of those people. That is what I consider one of the key benefits that I would have benefited, having the opportunity, because many times people on the coast, you see the news, you have access to a smartphone, and you have Wi-Fi, and you see propaganda out there that the government, like for example with the sluice that you mentioned in 5, we would have seen the DPI or DNCN putting out there the sluice has been developed, $400, $600 million has been spent, and it will improve the life of farmers. But you on the ground, and you witness the silting up, the farmers continue to suffer or even worse than before. And that is some of the advantages of being on the ground in communities and witnessing firsthand. And of course, at the level that you are, you have the opportunity to advocate for on behalf of the people.
Absolutely. You know, I had the opportunity in 2014 to go into Region 9 for the very first time in my life. And Mr. Norton, our leader, would always talk about that there are many Guyanese who do not have the opportunity to travel this country, which is a crying shame because we do not have the infrastructure in place and so on for people to move around. But when I got there, our stop was at the Kurupakari School. We stopped at the Kurupakari School. And if you are familiar with Kurupakari, then you know that school is a multi-graded school. Nursery, primary, and secondary, all in there. And when we got there was something interesting to note. The children were walking to school for miles, more than 2 miles in some instances. And the government of Guyana at the time, which was under the PPPC, they had stopped the school feeding program. So that those children, when they left during the midday to go back home for lunch, they did not return to school. So they were missing out on their education. And now I recall inquiring more and more as to why did they do this? Why did they stop this? And nobody could give an accurate answer. When we got into government in 2015, from 2015 to 2020, we restored the school feeding program.
That's right.
As a matter of fact, more than 15,000 students benefited from that school feeding program every year. You know, and they say we didn't do anything for education.
Correct.
You know, and what that translated to was more students coming to school, more students staying in school, and the increased performance as well during those years that we were in power.
And that too reminds us of the 5Bs program.
Of course.
The boats, the bicycles, the buses, the backpack, and breakfast, as you mentioned, the hot meals.
Yes.
And I mentioned to persons just a few nights ago that when the PPP in government, and they used to be traveling, whether it's the Pomeroon River or say Region 1 of the riverine community, and when those ministers see the indigenous children paddling their canoes going to school, for them, it is something fascinating.
Yes.
And I kid you not, they take their phones and they take videos and pictures and they say, oh my, look at, and they post that on Facebook. Oh, look at these little children paddling to, because the amusement. When you're on the ground, as the APNU has been across the length and breadth of this country, and you meet with teachers in some of those far-flung areas, they will tell you that something they observe is that when schools start at about 9:15, half of the class is asleep.
Yes.
And they attributed that to the children having to get up early in the morning and paddling something for an hour to get to school. So when they reach there, they're tired. Having given the opportunity by the people of Guyana in 2015, the APNU introduced that 5Bs program and immediately started to put boats in those urban areas, that those boats stop at every dock and pick up those children and take them to school.
Yes.
And those on the coast, parents always find it difficult to find the transportation money and as well to put your children in a transportation that they're safe.
Yes.
They don't have to worry about lewd and vulgar music being played and what condition or situation the children are going through. The APNU and government, given the opportunity by the people of Guyana, put those buses on the road that picked up children and take them back and forth free of cost.
That's right.
Saving parents millions of dollars over that period.
Definitely.
And again, that was done without our money. Now picture if you, the people of Guyana, not only coming out here this afternoon on the Square of the Revolution to show your numbers and show your support, but you give us that opportunity once again, is that programs like those, that 5B program, will be expanded.
Absolutely.
In which, because you have the resources,
Yes, we do.
so instead of the buses that we used to see traversing, and mind you, it was businessmen who saw it fit to make those donations.
Sure.
But as a government, the APNU will purchase the ones that you see when you travel to the US or Canada for your family, and you see those yellow buses taking children to school. That is part of the APNU's plan.
That's our commitment.
Coming into government, a commitment that they will purchase these buses and have them on the roads taking your children to school.
Yes.
That over a month, a week, or a fortnight, it saved parents thousands of dollars. That is monies going back into your pocket to offset any other expenses. And we haven't even touched on those other reductions that we'll do. We'll leave that day.
Yes. You know what? And I see the current Minister of Education, former, I should say, because she's, Parliament has been dissolved.
Yeah.
But she went into the interior and she's showcasing her walking through mud and driving through mud. And here's the funny thing. That's the reality of students on the coastland. There you go. Not in the interior, the coastland. There was one young lady in Cottage by Cody who was showing how her child had to walk through puddles to get out to school. She fell into the mud and had to go back home, couldn't go to school that day. But let me tell you something. What you're hearing here is what it means to put people first.
Exactly.
We are putting you first, you Guyanese. And if you want to hear more of what we are going to do next, you have to be here tonight. You can't have somebody else tell you what happened.
Yeah. Now
You
you
gotta
should
be
have
here.
come. You want to be planned for come, but you see when I wake up and no, come.
There you go,
Come.
cut it.
Because you know, I don't even want to mention the man's name, but you know the man that has the Thursday 2 or 3 hour rent for that period of time. He likes to talk.
Yes.
So we got to give him something to talk about.
Yes.
The square of the revolution this afternoon.
That's right.
To show you a number. Because, Trevor, and this is outside of everything that we're discussing. When you speak to the average Guyanese, particularly a lot of the youngsters who get in these contracts, whether to do gutter and so forth, because I'm speaking with them. And the guys always tell you, is like, listen, right now, the things ain't right.
Yes.
That the monies that they were given to do a little road or to silt a gutter or whatever the case be, after expenses, they have a little to nothing. A lot of those youngsters now who used to be building these houses, then housing scheme and so forth, if you notice a lot of the housing scheme that they were building, when they're building these houses, they stopped. Because they started paying the contractors little money that after they expended themselves to construct these houses, they have nothing to show for it. So many of those contractors just literally stopped taking those contracts altogether. Now, the presidential candidate of the APNU is on record, and he made mention of the fact that he will continue those projects, but he will ensure that those contractors are paid the sufficient amount of monies that they have to be paid so that they can make a profit and benefit from those contracts.
Absolutely.
But things aren't right. Things are not good. Guyanese people are not happy. The situation in the country is very bad at the time.
Yes, it is.
I got this.
Yes, it is. It's bad. Hey, you know what? We are going to cut for a little while. We're going to head into to get one of those other endorsements here for you to see the people that are supporting this movement. There are people just like you, people who are excited to see Guyana go to the next level, and we are excited with them. Remember, Square of the Revolution is the place to be tonight. As a matter of fact, it's the place to be now.
Correct.
Now you need to get down here, guys.
And as well, sorry, and just a sec before you go to the endorsement, if you haven't been able to collect it just yet, there is the team, the young people for Aubrey Norton. They are here and they are distributing those t-shirts. So
definitely, and you want to come here soon because we think we have enough for everybody, but you can never tell. So it's as you come, you get things.
Exactly.
So come quickly. Exactly. Let's take an endorsement now.
Good afternoon, fellow Guyanese. My name is Terrence Harris. I am the chair of the campaign team for the United States region of the People's National Congress Reform. The United States region of the People's National Congress Reform proudly extend our unwavering support to the APNU coalition and to our esteemed leader, Aubrey Compton Norton. As Guyana stands on the threshold of a new era, Leader Norton's visionary 8-point people-centered development strategy inspires us. It is a bold and transformative plan that promises to uplift every Guyanese and propel our nation toward unprecedented growth and prosperity. Leader Norton's strategy is not just a policy framework. It is a contract with the people of Guyana designed to put people first and ensure that the nation's resources are used to provide a high quality of life for all. The strategy's core pillars guarantee that every Guyanese will have access to a livable income, with targeted support to raise living standards, expand the middle class, and provide predictable, accountable cash grants to households. We call on all Guyanese at home and abroad to unite behind this vision and work together to usher in an era of growth and success beyond imagination. Together, under the leadership of Aubrey Compton Norton, We will build a Guyana that is just, inclusive, and prosperous for all. We love you. We support you. Long live the APNU Coalition. See you on September 1st, when we will work side by side to make this a reality. Have a wonderful launch and be safe.
Hey guys, Dylan Mohammed here. I have a message for you, the average Guyanese citizen. For too long in our country, we have had leaders who do not know nor understand our struggle as average working class Guyanese. Also, those of us who might be poor, less fortunate. So, for the first time, we have on a ticket two leaders who actually know and understand and have lived the struggle of the working class Guyanese. And as such, these two leaders are very well able and capable to bring solutions to these issues. They're not pretending, they're not coming to us with lovely promises, unrealistic dreams like most of the other leaders have and continue to do even in this election campaign. They are bringing it home and being real with us. And so I want to endorse today Mr. Aubrey C. Norton for President and Ms. Jaretha Finance for Prime Minister. And I believe this combination is exactly what the average citizen of Guyana needs in this time to bring us out of the struggle that the People's Progressive Party has put us in for the past 5 years, almost. This afternoon will be the launch of the APNU Coalition's campaign at the Square of the Revolution at 4 p.m. and I hope to see you there. I know there has been a lot of defamatory remarks in the media, on social media, about these two candidates, but I can assure you, a lot of these things are coming from persons who want to steal your vote because they just want power, they just want money for themselves, as they usually would and would have done in the past. So don't let them fool you. These two persons are the two persons that Guyana needs right now. These are the leaders that are most fit to lead Guyana as of September 1st, 2025. So see you this afternoon.
A bit more of the cool. The Guyanese sun right now is not an easy thing.
The sun's sunning.
The sun's sunning indeed. And talking about this, we've had a lot of change of weather. One time it's raining, another time it's hot, and a lot of people are coming down with the flu and the dengue, which the government say doesn't exist.
Exactly.
Our nation's health is a very important thing. If we are going to have a productive workforce, then we need people who are healthy.
Yeah.
And since we were talking about what we did while we were in government 2015 to 2020, I can safely say that we did extremely well.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, we built more than 50 health posts and centers. What was not built was rehabilitated.
Correct.
And not just on the coastland, but
Correct.
in the interior as well. I have here somebody sent me Karasabai, Baramita, Kamarang, Aituni, Port Kaituma. These are all places that we went to and ensure that those communities are getting the health services that they need so that they can be healthy.
Exactly.
People keep calling me. They say, Travon, dialysis is killing me out. When we were in government, we ensured that dialysis was free.
Correct, sir.
Because we felt that the human capital that's the most important resource.
That's right.
And you will hear Mr. Norton saying a lot about that. And I'm certain tonight he's going to be talking about the importance of the human capital to Guyana. I am not sure how fair you are with what we did on the health while we were there. But these are just a few of the things that we did on the health.
Yeah, but even forgotten that, something that a lot of people miss.
Yes.
Is those EMS.
Right? Yes.
And I'm pretty certain that the viewers could recall
Yes.
that prior to 2015, if your relative gets sick, you ain't got no ambulance to call.
That's true.
It used to be you throw them at the back of a car, a bus, a truck, or whatever, and run them down the road.
God help
And you
us.
know, sometimes we take this thing for granted, and we miss this. Is that as of today, with all of the ambulance that we see traversing the streets and so forth, it was under the APNU in government,
That's
in
true.
health care,
That's true.
that introduced the ambulance services that is able to pick up and transport your relative.
Yes.
And not only that was done on the coast, but it was also done in the hinterland.
Yeah.
In where you have these Land Rovers were converted into ambulance to transport people.
Yeah.
And then there was the component that was added to the Guyana Fire Service, which is the EMS.
That's right.
And of course, under then Minister of Health, Walter Lawrence, you had these young people being trained in EMS, and a lot of them take up that position.
Yeah.
So even to now, when you see the fire trucks going to a call,
Yeah.
you would see an ambulance
Yeah.
accompanying them in that procession.
Yes.
People take for granted that those services, including the ambulance at the various hospitals and regional hospitals, were introduced under the APNU government. And again, Trevor, if we were able to do that and so much without oil money,
Without oil.
imagine giving the APNU coalition government the opportunity in 2025 to do more. As you rightfully mentioned and continue to mention, the APNU is about putting people first.
Yep.
It's about the people. Because as you mentioned, if you have a healthy nation, if you have a citizenry that is well paid, they're well taken care of in terms of their health, they have easy and quick access to land, to build, and loans to construct. Young people have equal access to education and so forth. In a few years, you will have a population that is so poised that any industry, because you know we have the challenge now with the oil and gas industry, that we don't have sufficient people trained that could take up those positions and so forth. And the people just building roads and everything on it.
You know, roads are the only things that people need.
Exactly.
Because you can have the roads and then the roads lead to nowhere. There are no persons to utilize the road. So we really need to invest more in our people. But we can also talk about social support programs. The drop-in centers that we had, we started to focus a little bit more on social welfare, on having counselors and social workers. And I know our presidential candidate has said, and I did also hear our prime ministerial candidate talking about it, that we want to ensure that we have enough of these social support workers there, so that persons who are having mental issues or even interpersonal challenges can have somebody to talk to help them through the difficult times and you know, because dealing with people is not an easy thing, Chris. You know, it's not easy, and we can have some struggles there at times. Now, earlier you were talking about housing, and I have to segue here because of recent times we've seen a lot of house lots being distributed. And sometimes when you talk to people, they are concerned that under APNU and our coalition partners in government, you did not see a fanfare as you're seeing now. As a matter of fact, the figures say that we distributed somewhere around 7,000 house lots. Now, when you get down into the details, you realize that there's a difference. While the PPP may give out a whole lot of house lots, there are people who are still waiting to see those house lots. I recall Ronald this morning, he was talking on Nature Watch about it, that he got a first waiting 14 years for his house lot and he can't get access to it. When we gave out those 7,000 house lots, we gave them out with streets, we gave them out with light, we gave them out with water, that you could have gone the very day and start building.
Correct. No, listen, if you didn't mention that the PPP is just giving land, I would have jumped you, right? When the coalition came into office, what was found is exactly the same situation. That you had people who were allocated, and not even lot, but rather land by the previous PPP government before 2015, and they had no idea where those lots were. The APNU spent a significant amount of years, I think up to about probably 3 years, trying to allocate those lands or those lots to the people who were awarded lands under the, and note that I'm saying land and lots, because the people give land. The coalition give you a lot, because as we mentioned, as is happening now, they go out there and say that their objective is to allocate 50,000 house lots. They have allocated 40,000 land and 10,000 lots. So the 10,000 lots are actually people who receive lots. But the 40,000 people who are allocated lands have never seen it. They don't know where the land there. They don't pay over $500,000, and they're requested to pay more before they even see them. So what they do is collect those monies and develop lots for people who have been waiting a period of time. So it is. PPP is always about transaction. As I was speaking with we were speaking about the graduates, how they reduce the period of time of training from 1 year to 4 months to have a graduation ceremony. So the ministers and the PPP can say, look, 400 young people graduated. It's about that fanfare. So similarly with the house, the land allocation, it was just to say out there that we have already allocated 50,000, and it's not lots, it's land, of which the 40,000 people have never seen it. They have no idea where it is. And it's about the numbers. It is a level of preparation, if you would want to call it that.
That's right. So what we have is, if present government is all about theatrics. It's all just a big show, fireworks, but when there is no real substance to it. The Guyanese, you can comment on the live video about whether or not you've experienced the very same thing, Have you been issued a house lot, or a piece of land, but you have not seen that house lot, or you have not been able to access it as yet? As a matter of fact, I have a challenge to you, and I know the music is disturbing some of you. We are doing a song test. The guys are doing a song test right now, actually, because we are getting ready to get the vibe going. Again, let me stop to say, if you're not on your way, what are you waiting for? Get in the box, call a taxi, call your seat man. Call somebody. You need to be down here at the Square of the Revolution. You need to be on your way down here. All right? No, but I want to challenge you today. If you have received an allocation of process here, I want you to message us. I want you to call us. Let us start. We want to start preparing for our first day, Chris. Our first day in office. We want to know who are those people. So that's my challenge to you. Start reaching out to us. Send us your information so that we can get from day one, from September 2nd or 3rd, whenever they release the information. Because we know that you, the people of Guyana, will vote overwhelmingly for the APNU and our coalition partners so that we will be in government and put you first. So here, Chris, we have to do some work because of this audio. So, like what you said, we're going to go for a very short commercial. We're going to play some more of those endorsements while we make some adjustments to the audio. Thank you for staying with us. Don't go anywhere except you're coming here.
That's right.
Good evening. I'm James McAllister, former Member of Parliament and former Central Executive Member of the People's National Congress. Tonight, on the occasion of the launch of the campaign by APNU, I extend greetings from New Jersey in the United States of America. I wish presidential candidate Aubrey C. Norton and Prime Ministerial candidate Director of Finance total success as they embark on this momentous effort to rid Guyana from the clutches of the corrupt and evil People's Progressive Party. I urge each and every Guyanese to not only turn out tonight, but to lend effort in this noble cause to ensure
that we restore pride and dignity in Guyana once again. And you must remember that for Guyana to grow, the PPP must go. All the best in this effort, all the best in the campaign. I wish you total success.
We're back here at the Square of the Revolution. You see Coffee in the background. And you see, this is not Christopher George. This is Shanika Hayes. I'll tell you something. Shanika is a lot of fire, all right? But Jack, you get nothing wrong, Shanika. If you come wrong, she gonna match you up. Good afternoon, Shanika. We're so happy to have you here. And I'll tell you something, guys. Shanika is going to be taking over very shortly from me. Shanika is a passionate young woman for change in Guyana, but also she believes and embodies the principle of our people-centered movement, which is putting people first. As a mother, she feels for the mothers of this nation. As a parent, she feels for the children of our nation. And we are so excited to have her part of our party, part of our team, and now part of this team here today in this pre-launch activity. Shanika, I'm excited to have you here. What drives you, Shanika? What really drives you in your politics and political work?
I tell people I think it's something that I couldn't avoid. It came naturally, I guess, because of my environment, how my parents being so involved in community work and betterment of people and being pastors, always having people in their home, and that drives to help people. And I think I attribute a bigger part of it to going to Sacred Heart Primary School on Main Street. I tell people when I went to Sacred Heart, I wonder, but during that time of 1997, 1998 into 1999, I was going to Sacred Heart Primary. And almost every other week or every day, in some cases, depending on the period, there was a protest in front of that school area that was geared to whether it was Janet, who has been around since then. Maybe that's where the passion as well drives to deal with him. And it always bothered me as a child. Why is it that people had to go to the events to have their voices heard? Why is it that people had to go in the streets, behave bad, break things down, just for a government who should serve the people? They are servants of the people, elected by the people to hear them. And I always said to myself, I want to be a part of something that people must not have to go to that extent to be heard. They should be heard because you serve them. And that, whatever it is that they think will better their life, that is what you as a government ought to be doing for the people. Because you're elected by them. And I think that was one of my biggest drives, wanting to see that change. So for me, it was always either I'm going to be a lawyer and fight for these people on the road, or I'm going to be a politician that, in my view, would be able to help a greater number of people. So I made that choice because I realized that I would be able to help a greater number of people in being a politician, because you make policies, you have projects that will push the needs of the people. So that is basically what got me involved from such a young age, I should say, and has kept me driven. I saw the murders of Donna McKenna and all these people when you used to have the protest right across the road from here in front of what we call then OP. And Joanne Faith Douglas, I was in school, I saw my sister cry because of her friend, and how it all happened. And those things for me, it has stuck with me, and it is something that I want to see change, because as much as we hear some people say, oh, we don't want to hear about Burnham and Chetty. I want to tell them that wasn't Burnham or Chetty. That was Jack Dio.
Oh, Jack Dio.
He was still here
Yes.
in politics. And we saw that. And what we have seen in the past 5 years is basically a repeat of those scenarios.
Yes.
We have a long list of young people, again, who have become victims to what I will say is the failed system of a government.
That's true.
Who don't care about the people, and they refuse to put the people first. And this is why we have those issues.
That's true. That's true. You know, so many of us would have witnessed these very same things, and for some people, it would have caused them to cower away. They become fearful. They became fearful. They did not want to express their affiliation with the then People's National Congress Reform, and even now to say that they're part of the APNU because they are afraid of the victimization that comes from this sitting government, how they try to ensure that you don't get a job in the public sector, or they even use the people who are aligned in the private sector to ensure that you don't get a job. You know, this is the reality of the young people on the ground here in Guyana.
And I can say to you that I've experienced that firsthand. I was one of those persons from the entry of this government who they systematically targeted. I received calls, in fact, on the second day of government. That was on the 3rd of August. My first call came from the office of the president. That is how targeting they were to young people who they believe had a voice and was not going to, they were going to stand up for what is right. Because I have always been that voice, and I believe that's the reason I was immediately targeted. And when they realized at that point that they could not deal with me, they went for the next best thing, the other breadwinner in my house. And I can say it, I wouldn't say who said and what, but I was literally told that they were told, well, they can't deal with me yet, so that individual has to be sent home. It was that targeting. But and beyond even targeting of jobs and some of the things we see, I tell them I was the name of Saturday. So there's so many reasons, you know. But what I implore young people to ensure is that at the end of the day, I understand the situation where some persons, they have to do what is necessary because they have families to feed. They may not be fearless as me, because I tell people at the end of the day, I have one provider, and he is God Almighty.
Absolutely.
So what I choose to do in representation of people, for whichever side of the aisle I am on, whatever is right that I believe is right that I speak out to, I am okay with bearing the consequences because I know who is my provider, and I will be okay because he is. But there are persons who may not be as confident as me. Maybe they don't even believe the things that I believe, so they choose to keep quiet and, you know, go through the routine because they have to feed their families at the end of the day. But what I want to tell those young people, and the part that when we go to the poll on September 1st, that people must understand, you are now walking and in that poll, understanding that your vote is yours and yours only. And when you go into that poll to mark your X, you are going to speak the loudest that day against victimization in whatever form it comes. That is your voice. Whether you come out and wear a green jersey, whether you take the red jersey with $15,000 in it, or whether you take whatever they're giving out, and my view that is our money, when you go to that poll on September 1st, and in terms of the military, when you go to that poll on August 22nd, it is your opportunity to say enough is enough. Nobody can tell you what to do when you get in there. That is your opportunity to do what I'm doing loudly. But you do it quietly and ensure that we see the back of the PPP. It's time to remove the cup.
That's right. You know, come nominations day, which is the 14th.
Yes, the 14th
The
of July.
14th. That's 8 days away, guys. That's 8 days away. We are going to be releasing a song for that that speaks about that. Take it, but take back your country.
Correct.
Whatever they're giving you, it's you own anyhow. Take it back. It belongs to you, and this country is yours, and you deserve the best. And that's what we are talking about. But we are going to break very quickly. We are going to come back and continue this conversation. We are just getting started, guys. So stay tuned. By the way, again, I'm just checking in. I hope you're on your way to the Square of the Revolution. All right. If you're not on your way as yet, I'm telling you, it's time to get on the bus. It's time to call the taxi. We're about to start this powered movement.
We ready, time to remove the
Guyana, this is it, the launch of the APNU Coalition campaign on Sunday, July 6th on the Square of the Revolution from 4 p.m. Come meet our candidates. Come out and hear about our people-centered development strategy that puts people first. Come hear from our Prime Ministerial candidate, Jurita Fernandez, our presidential candidate, Aubrey C. Norton, and others. On Sunday, July 6th from 4 p.m., the Square of the Revolution will vibrate with a people-powered campaign. APNU, putting people first.
We ready, time to remove the curse. I'm feeling it now.
Back to
My fellow Guyanese, I'm Roger Ford, Senior Counsel and Member of Parliament. Today I speak to you not just as your representative, but as your brother in service and your partner in progress. This election is just not another date on the calendar. It's a chance to reset our nation's course, to reclaim dignity, equity, and opportunity for all. That is why I'm proudly endorsing the leadership of Aubrey Norton, our presidential candidate, and Jurita Fernandez, our prime ministerial candidate, under the banner of a Partnership for National Unity, APNU. Aubrey Norton is a man of the people, tested, proven, and grounded in the principles of democracy and national unity. He understands the struggles of everyday Guyanese and has spent his lifetime fighting for justice and equal access to opportunity. And Jurita brings a breath of fresh leadership. Her vision, integrity, and compassion make her a symbol of modern Guyana, where inclusivity and innovation pave the way forward. Together they are the team Guyana needs, and APNU is certainly the vehicle to take us there. As someone who has stood firm for constitutional governance, legal reform, and economic unity, I can tell you this. On an APNU government, your rights will be respected, your voice will be heard, and your future will be protected. The stakes are high, the time is now, and the choice is certainly clear. Join me in standing with Aubrey Norton, Jurita, and APNU for a Guyana that works for all. On September 1st, vote APNU. Vote for leadership you can trust. The right leadership, the right direction. Thank you very much.
guys, we are coming to you live again from the Square of the Revolution. Listen, if you haven't shared this live as yet, it's about time to get busy. Share it with your auntie, your uncle, your granny, your grandfather, whoever it is, your children, father, your sweet man, sweet woman, it doesn't matter. Just share the live. Let people see what's going on here at the Square of the Revolution. And when you're done, share it, ensure you come down, all right? This is going to be massive tonight, and you're going to want to be a part of this. You wouldn't want to hear it from somebody else. You must be here to say, I was there, I experienced it for myself, all right? Now, we continue to have this conversation with Shanika. And not so long ago, Shanika, you were sharing with us your experience as a child, the things that you would have seen that were done by Barajagdeo. And you also said that the funny thing is that over the last 5 years, we've seen a repeat of these kinds of things. What are you talking about?
When I say I'm seeing a repeat, during the period of, say, 1997 and more so the 2000s, we saw extrajudicial killings where we saw the police force being weaponized, and we were told that, you know, they're just taking out rogue elements. And a lot of the times, and I know there are lots of families out there that are still hurting because there are many bodies of our young brothers of ours young men who went missing that to this day nobody knows what has happened to them.
That's true.
Absolutely nobody. And we saw, as I said, the extrajudicial killings, and just a slew of what I will call the blood period. And one of the most popular songs that you heard then was "How Many More."
Oh my!
It was something that rang through your ears during the 2000s. Every morning you woke up, it was just some other story. And here we are in 2025. Since 2020 to 2025, we have began to hear that song playing again. And Adriana Young being what I will say, it's not the last because we had scenarios after, but one of the scenarios that really showed us a lot about what would have happened then and even now. Because what we saw with the Adriana Young story, it was a young lady going missing, a young girl going missing.
A girl child.
And then that energy, that vigor of parents and community that eventually caused her body to be found, unlike some in the 2000s, which we never found. But her body was found. And we saw what happened there. Then we saw this massive cover-up from a government. It is unheard of that in this day and age that a family has to use a lawyer to take the police force to court to get an autopsy report for a case that is so high profile because the entire world watched what happened to Adriana. And I want to say the difference between back then and now is that there is social media.
Yes, of course.
There are the benefits of social media that the world could have seen what has happened. And before Adriana in 2020, we saw the Henry boys and Harris Singh situation. We saw the mutilation of the Henry boys' body after they went missing in the back dam. And then we heard stories of them thieving coconuts and the most frivolous things. But we saw their bodies, what it looked like.
Yes.
And the horror of parents having and community to discover young men, young boys, I should say, bodies in that manner without an explanation, without any conclusion to that matter, no justice to this day. And we saw Harris Singh following days after, and we hear stories or rumors of that he would have known what happened to the Henry boys, and they were afraid that he spoke.
Yes.
And that is why his life was lost. And then we hear them blame people. But then that situation as well, when we see what could have happened to the young man in the Adriana story with the car, it makes you wonder, even in the Harrison situation, because we hear they're blaming one of the other brothers for that murder, who is still sitting in jail, who has pleaded and claimed his innocence in knowing nothing of that nature. But we saw how the police operated with that. And it was only because of the persistence of the family that man would have been spared jail time, probably because he could have been blamed for her murder without any real evidence. But we knew what we saw in the Henry's boy and the Harris Singh matter. And that was just in 2020, September 2020, soon as the PPP stepped back in office. We saw this matter. Then we have the Boston matter, which only concluded last month, where the police officer is now charged with murder because Orange Boston, unlike what the police wanted us to believe in the beginning, was shot in his bed.
Yes, cold-blooded murder.
Next to his wife, in his home.
In his home.
By not not even ordinary police, but by the SWAT team, who we know only takes orders at a particular level. These are the kind of things that we have seen when we thought we had dealt with the Henry brothers, Harry Singh, or in Boston. Then we went to Quindon back up.
Oh my, yes.
On the East Coast.
Yes, Golden Grove.
We saw what happened in terms of the protests and where the government took that to, and the disrespect that they showed to persons who just wanted to express how they felt about the way the police has been operating. And we saw the president not leave his house to visit the family of this young man who we believe the police use excessive force with. That's another case that has only recently brought forward, where the family now, the court has ordered the family to be paid because of the situation. And we saw the operation of the police in that matter, and the government, how they operated. Then I'm sure that I'm missing a few, but I'm talking about the ones that at least many persons would have remembered. We then had Mr. Peterson, Peterson and Fudgeny from Linden.
Yes.
Being killed within days of each other. One again where the police told us a whole story until the video footage came out to prove that what they were saying about the young man was false. And then without any remorse after that, when the community decided to stand up for that family, another young man was killed.
Wow.
Because they decided to stand up against what they believe is the injustice of the police force, and again aided by the government. And I want people to understand, we talk about the things that would have happened in Jagdeo era. This is Ali era.
This is Ali.
Don't mind Jagdeo is there. This is on his head.
Cut from the same cloth.
Yes. As the president of this country, this is on his head. Because it has happened on his watch.
That's right.
And we have seen his attitude and his behavior. We have seen the things that he gets riled up over, but he doesn't get riled up over when the police kills people, children, anyhow, in the streets.
Yeah.
He has a lot of passion for other things, and Muhammad and everybody else, and Nabri, and who want to shake his hand, and he has a lot of passion for that. But when it comes to ensuring that the people that you say, claim, quote unquote, put it up, you are elected to serve, you don't have that passion to serve them. You run around monkeying yourself, dancing here and there, but your policies does not speak to helping the people. Your policy speaks to family, friends, and favorites, nothing else.
Absolutely.
And we as a people can no longer condone that kind of thing. And Linden had a lot happening because you had the killing of the two boys. Then Adriana matter came, and while those persons were standing up for Adriana and they were protesting, a young man who was in his house was shot in his eye. And I don't think the government has given any real assistance to that family because he was not in the streets. He was in this, what should have been the safety of his home, as the police parade and do and operate outside of the SOP with instructions from other places and operate in this manner. And you know, I watched one of the things that stood out to me with that particular situation, I watched his wife, the wife of the man that was shot. I watched her live the morning after. And you know what she said? And I think it's a position of a lot of Guyanese who want to say, I don't want to be in politics. I want to stay in the corner. She said, I have avoided being a part of anything because I don't want to be put in a certain position. She talked about being a part of the military apparatus.
Yeah.
And you know that these are things that she constantly talked about staying away from, but it came and met her in her home.
Yes.
And that is what I want Guyanese to take away today.
Yes.
Even as you listen to the policies that are being put out, we want you to understand this. You may not be forward in these things, but you've got to understand that the government that sits in place can affect you at any level.
Absolutely.
Whether you're out or you're in. Because whatever policies or lack of policies that they have can affect you at your door. It's not your neighbor. Everybody just feel it's not me, it's she problem. But until it hits home, we can't wait on that anymore. Guyanese is getting serious.
It is, guys.
We cannot wait for it to come home then to say, oh, the government is this. We have to now take it on ourselves to understand that we have the responsibility from the get-go. Your vote matters. Don't worry with this thing, but oh, everybody else will vote me on is only one. Every single vote counts.
Yes, it does.
Therefore, when you are considering what you must do, you must consider what are the policies that can make you comfortable and what are the policies that can make you uncomfortable, and ensure that you know the APNU coalition is the only team that represents the people of this country.
That is true.
In the whole.
Without a doubt.
There will be no friends, family, and favorites.
That's right.
We represent all of the people.
All of Guyana.
And the policies that will work for you and the projects that will work for you will ensure that not only that you get monies coming to you, but you're able to live comfortably without studying and worrying about what are the possibilities of tomorrow.
That's right. You know, we are preparing to wrap up, but I know that the PPP, whenever we talk about these things, they like to say that we are politicizing these things that happen, and we're using them to make a political issue out of something that is not. But the truth of the matter is that we've seen the pattern. Whenever the PPPC is there is always an increase in the spate of violence sponsored by the PPP. Because at one time we had the Black Clothes police that was supported by the Mohammeds and other private businessmen within the country. And the funny thing is, even though we may not want to say it, it appears as though every time they're in, there is one particular ethnic group that suffers the most. And the truth is, as one man said, injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. And if one ethnic group is being faced with some sort of marginalization or victimization, then that is a threat to every ethnic group within the country. Because we have seen how in other regions, individuals are facing victimization by not getting certain contracts or improvements coming to their communities. And the truth is this, that these are all issues that are on the ballot. Adriana Young, she's on the ballot. Correct, the Henry brothers, they're on the ballot. The Rich Thing, he's on the ballot. The boys from Linden, they're on the ballot. The East Coast, that's Queen Ambassador, and all of the others, they are on the ballot. And this election, I've heard people say it is not about election. This is a great and not about election. This is an extremely important election, because it will determine the next 20 to 30 years of our country. Guyanese are asking you, where do you want to see Guyana in the next couple of years? Where do you want to see Guyana after September 1st? You certainly want to see yourself living better, being able to sleep at night, being able to afford your basic necessities, to not have to worry about how you're going to provide for your family tomorrow. The APNU coalition is the choice for a better future. Shanika, I don't know if you have any closing words before we go here today that you want to say directly to the people of Guyana.
I want to tell you, you can't afford to miss this evening launching. So if you haven't started moving as yet to the square, I know you can hear the sound in the background. We're pumping up. People are already arriving. It's time to make up your mind and come out. If you didn't get a jersey, wear something green and come to this launching. Because this, after today, you will be entering into a mood to ensure that every single Guyanese understand that there is no other choice other than the APNU coalition. If Guyana is the goal, the PPP must go, and the APNU coalition is your only choice. That's right. I don't know if you can hear the song, but things are heated up here. I hear the song said, you think I'm foolish? I hate nobody playing. I'm no fool. I'm voting at you. Who are you voting for? I hope it's at you, and I hope you're on your way right now to the square of the revolution. It's almost already packed. I see a lot of people here already. You want to come down here and be a part of it. Shanika, it was so nice having you here. It was so nice having you with us. But unfortunately, we have to break because there are a few things that we have to do as we prepare for some activities right after 4. So we will let you know when we are going to resume the live. So stay with us, stick with us, and vote for us. See you guys.
We ready, time to remove the
Guyana, this is it, the launch of the APNU Coalition campaign on Sunday, July 6 on the Square of the Revolution from 4 p.m. Come meet our candidates. Come out and hear about our people-centered development strategy that puts people first. Come hear from our Prime Ministerial candidate, Jurita Fernandez, our presidential candidate, Aubrey C. Norton, and others. On Sunday, July 6 from 4 p.m., the Square of the Revolution will vibrate with a people-powered campaign. APNU, putting people first.
We ready.